perfect song selection, because that really is the essence of faith. It's already in us. Move that out of the way. So, being born into Christianity and raised in it, I still have a great love for the Bible. And one of my professors, Reverend Deborah Johnson, who's the founder of Inner Light Ministries, turned me on to this amazing interlinear Bible. And so it has the original Hebrew in the Old Testament right along with the English, so that you can see how language has changed over time and what it intended to say before the sterilization process that happens with pretty much everything that we read these days. So in Hebrews 11:1, what it now says is, now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not being seen. The original Greek reads a little differently. Is now faith. Not it is, but is now. It begins to make us question. Is now faith of things being hoped, the substance of things, the evidence not being seen. By this, for obtained witness, the elders. Now that's a little different for me. What the Greek is saying is that there is some evidence in the elders. We can find it in them. The word hope in the original Greek actually doesn't mean wishful thinking. It doesn't mean we're hoping for anything the way we typically understand hope today. The original Greek word is ellipso, which means a joyful, confident trust. Very different than I sure hope this happens. Which is where most of us, when I read, faith is the belief in things not seen but hoped for, that's where my socialized brain goes. I really hope it happens. And that's not what it's saying. And so how would my life change if I read that as faith is the belief in things of which I have a joyful, confident trust will happen? Michael Beckwith says it this way: when we begin to see, when we see what we don't see we will see. It takes no faith for me to believe I have a microphone in my hand. That requires no faith whatsoever. It's there, I can touch it, we hear it coming through the speakers. I can see it, I can touch it, no faith required. When we do see what we don't see, we will see what we don't see. I can't see love. I can't see peace. I can see the evidence of it, but I can't see love itself. I can see the expressions of love. I can feel when I'm being loving, but I can't actually put it in a box and take it home and go, yep, still got love. It takes faith to believe that there is this substance called love, that it is real, that it's not my imagination. And that's a bit more challenging. And it becomes more challenging the more challenging my life becomes. Now maybe that's different for you. I'm reminded of a story that frames faith really well for me. There's an acrobat, and there's a cable stretched across a cavern that's, oh, let's say 1,000 feet deep. And he has a wheelbarrow. And he turns to the audience and he says, how many of you believe I can take this wheelbarrow successfully across that cable? And people's hands go up. Yeah, we believe it. He says, okay, how many of you have faith that I can actually make it successfully across? Hands go up. Yeah, we believe it. And he pauses, and he looks them all eye to eye. Get in the wheelbarrow. Yeah. It's real easy to go, yeah, go for it. But how many of us are getting in the wheelbarrow? What do we really believe? And what we really believe, I so want this to be different, but it's not. What I really believe shows up as my life. See, and when things show up as my life that I don't like, that I don't want to own, that I'm not real proud of, I want that to be somebody else's issue. I want that to be because the economy stinks. I want it to be because politically we can't get along. I want it to be because taxes are too high, food has too many calories, you name it, I got reasons. And the reality of it is, what shows up in my life is uniquely mine. Now, I've been deep in the study of philosophy, comparative analysis, for one of my classes. And comparative analysis says that A relates to B, B relates to C, therefore across the board it belongs to everybody. So if that's true for my life, and you're just as human as I am, it must be true for your life too. That the stuff that shows up in your life is uniquely yours. Doesn't belong to anybody else. Nobody else caused it. You can't get someone else to fix it for you. There really is just you and your dance with you. Now that doesn't mean we're not impacted by other people. We are. Okay? If somebody breaks into my house and steals my stuff, I'm impacted. Okay? How I deal with that is uniquely mine. It doesn't belong to anybody else. Nobody made me feel anything. Nobody made me do anything. Okay? Faith works the same way. What do I believe in? And what I believe in shows up in my life. Do I have faith to step out on the skinny branch and risk believing in something that I can't see? Will we risk our heart, the vulnerability of our heart, to step out and say, you know what, I can't see it. I can't see God. I see the evidence of God. I see what people have taught me is the evidence of God. Will I choose to believe that there really is a God? For me, I find that answer internally. I can't find it externally. I've tried that for a long time. External evidence eventually fails me, because then my faith is based in something impermanent. And when the impermanent object fails or goes away, with it goes my faith. Now what do I believe? I don't know. And that's a challenge. Science of mind, at one point, was a teaching and an order that truly evidenced physical healing. Physical healing. We have gotten, like other healing traditions, pretty far removed from that in the immediate evidence of it. I hear the siren in my head with the Science of Mind police coming after me now. Now I know why Edward used to say that, because you say those things and you go, uh-oh. I know they're here somewhere. And the truth of the matter is, even Pentecostal faith traditions have gotten further away from the immediate manifestation of physical healing. And I started looking at that, and we go back through the history books. As science advanced, miraculous healing declined. What do we have faith in? Medical science. I've had 2 knee replacements. Did I know? Did I see it before I had them? No. I had faith in what was hoped for but unseen. I've never seen my surgeon do these before. I hadn't seen anyone that he'd operated on walk. I was completely in faith that he could do what he said he could do. I was in faith that the anesthesiologist could put me to sleep, keep me asleep, and wake me up without killing me. That's where my faith was, if I'm being really honest. I like to say my faith was in something bigger, and I have. And that's a lie when I say that. I have a friend that manages a cardiac wing for a hospital. And one of the things that he points out is that he still sees miraculous healings, but he sees them when every medical option has been exhausted. When there is no other option. Then people find a different level of faith. And so I challenge myself, how would my life be different if I just told that truth when I was exploring my faith? When I was looking at my mental equivalence of what my heart was calling me to create. If I looked at what physical science am I depending on? What conditioned thinking am I depending on that I'm calling faith that really isn't faith? It's an economic structure. It's a bank account. It's a belief that someone with more money will give me some. It's a lot of things that are based in condition. Can I move beyond that to real faith? For me, that begins with owning what I'm actually looking at. Before I can change where my faith is, I have to know where it is. I like the example of maps and locations. If I'm standing in the state of Florida and I want to get to Michigan and I have a map of New Mexico, I'm in trouble. Because I don't even know where I am to start with. And my map doesn't even relate to where I'm going. And how often has my journey of faith been just that? Where I don't even know where I am. I know where I want to go, but I haven't a clue how to get there or where to start. And I invite you to consider removing the labels good and bad. Remove the labels of right and wrong. We talked last week about what is simply is. What is can never not be, I believe was how Parmenides put it. So we just be in what is. Because it's not good or bad. It's not right or wrong. It just is where you are. And we can't be where we ain't. Maybe you can. Let me back. I can't. Maybe you have figured out how to do that. And if you did, come talk to me afterwards. I want to know what you know. So we start by just owning our stuff. And in order to do that, we have to take the ugly labels off. Otherwise, our inner work becomes like that project in our refrigerator that everybody knows is bad and keeps shifting it to the back, hoping that it will just go away. And it grows and it morphs and it changes, and it never goes away. It just gets nastier and nastier until we open the door one day and it's like, good Lord, what is that? And it's the thing we've been avoiding for however long we've been avoiding it. I've had those moments in my life where I wake up and go, good Lord, what is this? Why does this keep happening? How do I keep winding up here? And how do I get out? It's that George Carlin moment. Instead of a deja vu, it's a vujade. It's that feeling that I've never been here before and I do not want to come back. I am done living there. I am done waking up in the morning saying, good God, it's morning. Today I wake up and say, good morning, God. Big difference. And that's available to us. But we got to start where we are. Wherever that is. Remember, you are whole, perfect, and complete. Just the way you are. We've all made decisions that in hindsight can qualify for what was I thinking. Chances are good we weren't. The scarier proposition is that we were. It doesn't matter. Given everything that you had in the moment of that decision, you made the decision that made the most sense for you in that moment, based on what you knew. Faith calls us to know something more. Faith calls us to believe that there is more than what we see. That there really is a source out of which we are all created that lives in us as us. See, those are easy words to say. Not so easy to stand in the storm. My wife is African American. And when someone throws racial slurs in her direction, it's a bit more challenging to stand in the truth that we are all whole, perfect, and complete. When I see things on TV that disrespect categories of people unilaterally, I find myself a bit challenged to remember that the person uttering those words is sourced out of the same source that I am. Maybe it's just me. Do I have the faith to to see love in that situation? That's the big question. Because there's no, folks, I would love to stand up here and tell you that there is an easy recipe, that there is a Betty Crocker cookbook for faith. And you just follow this recipe, and your faith pops out of the oven perfect every time. And I would be lying through my teeth. Because faith is an individual journey. Because we all want something a little bit different. I'm going to go out on a limb and say, not everybody in here wants to do ministerial school. Being almost through, you're smart. Oh my God. See, had I known what I know now, I probably would have continued to resist. But here's what I knew about ministerial school. From the age that I even knew what a minister was, I knew I was one. My heart knew who it was. I'd come home from church and line up all the stuffed animals in the house and preach whatever the sermon was to all my stuffed animals every Sunday. But then I made choices in my life that, in my understanding, disqualified me from ever being a minister. And so where I placed my faith was in someone else's belief system. Not in my heart, not in what I knew God was calling me to do, but what someone else believed. And so I delayed that, and delayed that, and delayed that. And then another human being who spent 20 minutes with me was listening to God more than I was. And she saw the truth of me and sent me a check for $1,000 and said, this is seed money for ministerial school whenever you get clear about who you are. I could never have seen that coming. 20 minutes I spent with this person. That's faith in action. Her faith woke up my faith. Because she had no evidence, none whatsoever, from looking at the progression of my life. There was not one shred of evidence that said to her, send the money and he'll go. She had faith that what she was knowing spiritually was the truth, and that's all she needed. We're impacted by one another. I cannot be your faith, but I can demonstrate faith that wakes up your faith. You can demonstrate faith that wakes up my faith. That's why we come together on Sundays. That's why we have discussion groups. That's why we're not doing this by ourselves. Because as strong as our faith might be on any given day, we still live on planet Earth. And planet Earth operates in duality. It isn't the truth, but it's how we operate. We have separated ourselves in this human journey from what created us. Most of us think we're here because our parents, and that they're here because of their parents. It's true biologically. I no longer believe it's true spiritually. I'm here by divine appointment. I am here because creation itself wants to experience itself as my life. Now, when I really let that in, that blows me away. That my existence is so intentional. So is yours. You are here in this physical form because God, whatever we call it, Spirit, the divine, the universe, wants to experience life as you. Just let that in. That's your purpose. My good buddy, Reverend Jeff Anderson, over in Oakland, sums it up beautifully. My job is to show God a good time. That's my job in life, is to show God a good time. How do we do that without having faith in all the things that God is? See, if we put our faith in cars and bank accounts and houses, I think we've missed the point. Not that those things aren't fun to have. Okay? I drove here in a truck that I love. I'm a country boy. I finally have a truck. Trust me, my earthly being is quite happy. I'm planning on getting in my lovely truck and driving to my home. I hope it's there when I get there. So don't think I'm saying things don't matter. They do. They're part of this walk. But do they matter more than love? Do they matter more than peace? Do they matter more than knowing the truth of your heart? Do those things matter more than looking into the eyes of one another and without uttering a word, deeply connecting because you see who's there beyond this physical body? That's the faith that I'm calling you up to. A faith that is beyond stuff. Because stuff is nice, but it can't make you happy. For a while. You know, when we were at the lot and my wife says, there's no interest, pick out a truck. It didn't take me 30 seconds to go that one. I was quite happy. And the level of happiness quickly faded signing the loan documents. I'm just saying. That kind of happiness is a fleeting happiness. Okay? I am still basking in my experience with our dear Babs. When that being that is housed in that body locked eyes with the being in this body and said, I don't know who this is anymore, but I know who I am. There was a direct communication of the divine with the divine, and I am forever changed by that. That's a different kind of faith. And it's not fading. In fact, every time I think about it, it anchors more deeply in me. And I want more of that. And I invite you to get hungry. Stop praying safe. We pray real safe, don't we? I'm just going to pray that everything works out okay. Or we pray for stuff. How might your life change if you just opened yourself to being an unencumbered instrument of peace? How might your life change if you prayed to have everything removed that is blocking your affluence of abundance. Affluence doesn't mean wealth, folks. We think, language changes. Language morphs with culture. The root of affluence means unrestricted flow. What if we opened to that? Would you be worried about how much money you have? Would you, or could you, hold on to money out of a sense of lack and have the faith of affluence? I don't think we can, because that holding on, that constriction blocks the flow. I'd love to tell you how I've paid for ministerial school, but I don't know. I know I started a GoFundMe account. I know every once in a while, like Friday, I got a check in the mail from somebody that I've never even met, who heard about what I'm doing and wanted to help. That's the kind of faith I'm living in today. The kind of faith that I can't explain. I just know it happens. And it happens because somebody challenged me to see beyond what I can see. Because if I can see it, it requires no faith. It just requires eyes. Faith requires us to see what we can't see. And that requires us to know that it's there. And that requires us to check our beliefs. And that requires us to get honest about what we do believe. Okay. Practitioners, if you would stand so that everybody can see your brilliant selves. These people are here to help us all remember the truth of who we are. So if you're challenged at all with your belief system, don't go home without being reminded of who you are. They'll be available after service. Thanks, guys. This is an amazing community. It truly is amazing. I have felt it since the first day I walked in the door, and I can't tell you how honored I am to be a part of it. You're magnificent. Know that. Feel that. Let that in. And then let it get bigger than you can even imagine. Become willing to see what you don't see, so that what you don't see, you do see. Let's take this into prayer. Divine love, infinite being, the one, the is, the only reality, no secondary source, just one. One love, one life, one breath, one being. All knowledge, all wisdom, all wealth, infinite abundance, infinite intelligence. All in this one, ever expanding. This one that creates out of itself, yet never exhausts its own resources. This is what we are made of. This is the truth of our being, because each of us is intentionally intentionally birthed from that. All that it is birthed in us. Always, in all ways, instantly available to us, as us. Wow. And so as I let that in, I realized the power that lives within each of us. That peace on earth is right here in this room. That infinite love that crosses all divides and brings every being together is right here in this room. Every answer to every question right here in this room as each of us. And so I speak my word, inviting each of us to open, to just open to the truth that has always been us. We're not adding anything or taking anything away. We're simply opening to see what has always been us. To own it, to stand in the truth of it, with the hope expressed through the Greek, a joyful, confident trust in the truth of our being. We allow that to call us to a deeper expression of faith, to a more visible expression of faith, to be in touch with the truth of our being through our heart, to allow that to form the mental picture in our mind, and to create through the mind of the one, which is the mind we share. Grateful for this time together, grateful to be used of service, grateful to be that hollow bone that the divine has chosen to live in as me. Grateful to be in the company of so many beautiful expressions of the one, looking back at me, God, experiencing God. What a trip. And so in this gratitude, I release my word into that activity of love and law that always says yes, doesn't know any other word. And so it has already said yes. Shift is happening. I let it go. I let it be. And I invite you, if any of this prayer has resonated with your being, to join me as we anchor it by saying, and so it is.